The Balancing Act is designed to prevent the catastrophic results of sequestration while instituting a healthy long-term balance between cuts and revenues. The simple truth is that from kids and seniors to small businesses and the military to a still recovering economy, sequestration is a disaster. Its effect would be devastating to our economy and would eliminate thousands of critical jobs in the midst of a recession. And what it makes, actually about 1 million jobs. There are really two problems with the sequester. One are all the specific cuts, and Jan went through some of them. Cuts to children's food, cuts to everything that is useful and essential. Cuts across the board, cuts to weather forecasts, cuts to hurricane forecasting, to airline air traffic control, you name it. All the things, fewer inspectors for the meat, for food, you name it. Everything the government does that when it doesn't do, you'll see catastrophes. But that when it does do, you don't even think about it. Second of all, at this point, our economy is very precarious. Our economic growth is varying between 2 and 2.5% a year. CBO says that the sequester would cut economic growth by 1.25%, which means cut it in half. Cut our economic growth in half. That would cost us almost 1 million jobs. At a time when we see the result of this kind of stupidity in Europe. You know, if you graph economic growth and unemployment in the United States and the key European countries, it's very interesting. Unemployment is going up, or rather going down until 2007, spikes upward in both the United States and Europe because of the recession, starts coming down at a slow pace until 2010. In 2010, American unemployment keeps going down at a slow pace, but the Europeans go way up again. Why? Because they did their equivalent of sequestration. They adopted austerity budgets. They cut the spending. We have already, and no one ever talks about this for some reason, we've cut the budget deficit in 2009 was 10.1% of GDP of the economy. In 2012 fiscal year, it was 7.1%. We cut 30%, the fastest reduction in a deficit since the demobilization after World War II. Frankly, it's too fast. It's hindering our economic growth. We do not have a spending problem, contrary to what you hear from the Republicans. If you look at spending, it's going down, except for food stamps and unemployment insurance, which always go up during a recession. When our unemployment comes down, the food stamp and unemployment insurance spending will come down. When we get unemployment back down to 5%, which is where it was in 2007, that by itself, anything, just getting the unemployment down to 5% will reduce the budget deficit by a further 40%. So our priority at this point ought to be economic growth, putting people back to work. That's what this is designed to do. Instead of the sequestration, which would destroy our economy, take almost a $1.2 trillion out of the economy, throw 1 million people out of work, reduce our economic growth rate in half, and throw us probably into a double-dip recession the way the same policies did in Europe. We say, don't do that. Maintain your spending level, but cut your deficits by increasing taxes on the very rich who are not paying the taxes. And on those segments of the tax loopholes, we're not even talking about tax rates, we're talking about getting rid of tax loopholes that promote investment in jobs abroad, promote moving jobs abroad. Why should the taxpayers subsidize moving jobs abroad? So let's get rid of those kinds of tax loopholes. Let's invest more money in transportation and infrastructure. That'll generate another 1 million jobs. So it's a net of 2 million jobs. 1 million jobs we can generate, 1 million jobs we won't destroy through the sequestration. It's the intelligent way to go. It will reduce the deficit through economic growth, and it will not destroy the economy, which is where we're headed otherwise.